The case we have for you today is about a man who made paranormal investigation mainstream in India. This man documented spirits, apparitions, ghosts, and all sorts of events that can only be described as supernatural. This is the story of the founder of India's first paranormal society, who fell prey to the very negative forces he was trying to uncover. This is the story of Gaurav Tiwari. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Justice Navigator, where we dive deep into some of the craziest cases from around South Asia. The case I have for you today is not just a case about a tragic death, but possibly a tragic haunting that led to a death. It's a case like none of the others we have ever covered before. If you hear India and you hear ghosts, you inevitably hear the name Gaurav Tiwari. It's a name that stamped itself across the Indian supernatural community. And the funny or interesting thing is, his life story is as fascinating, if not more, than the very cases and spirits he was trying to uncover. He's almost like India's Ed and Lorraine Warren, combined into one person, with an interesting personal life too, which we don't really have for these other paranormal investigators we've grown up hearing about. But on that note, Aaron, I think without any further ado, let me take you right to the heart of this story, which begins in the year 2006 in a small student apartment in Florida, in the United States. An apartment rented by Gaurav Tiwari. Gaurav Tiwari is a bright young Indian student at the Orlando Flight Training Academy. Gaurav had come to the US to attend flying school and eventually wished to return to India to become a commercial pilot. Gaurav had doting parents back in India who had worked hard their entire lives to be able to give their son the education he wanted. They were proud that Gaurav had made his way all the way to the US to attend flying school and follow his dreams of becoming a pilot. Initially, in his apartment in Florida, things were going great for Gaurav. He was having fun, making new friends in a new country, getting used to a completely different way of living, and he loved being there. However, with time, things slowly started to change. Inexplicable events started taking place around Gaurav's apartment. When he would fall asleep at night, he would suddenly wake up to noises coming from within the house, noises he had never heard before, and noises he just couldn't explain, since he was the only person living in that apartment. Time and time again, at random moments in the apartment, while reading a book on his bed or while eating breakfast at his dining table, he would suddenly feel like there was someone sitting right next to him. Initially, Gaurav, who had never believed in ghosts prior to this, ignored what he was feeling. Like any of us would, he brushed his thoughts aside and kept going on about his regular life. But eventually, the inexplicable occurrences in his apartment became too strong to ignore. When he just couldn't ignore these feelings any longer, Gaurav reached out to his friends who had lived in this building since even before he had moved in. He also reached out to the very person who had sold him the apartment. From all of these people, Gaurav heard a similar story. The people that had lived in this apartment before Gaurav had also complained of the same feelings after just a few months of living there. If this were me living in a foreign country, which I did experiencing any of this, I would pack my stuff and be out of that apartment the very next day. And I think that is exactly what most people would do. But Gaurav, contrary to common opinion and common action, slowly became more interested in understanding the reasons behind what he was experiencing. He wanted to know, do ghosts and spirits really exist? Do the dead return to talk to those who are still alive? And most importantly, to whom do the spirits in his house belong? He now, more than ever, started to take note of the happenings in his house. He noticed every single time he would hear someone laugh from one end of the house. He would notice every single time he felt like someone came and sat right next to him on his bed. He would notice every time a light that he had previously turned off would now be turned on. Gaurav became obsessed with trying to find answers. He dove deep into the internet to read the stories of thousands and thousands of other people who had experienced similar or even worse incidents that they thought were caused by the spirits of those who were dead. After months and months of scouring the internet and reading about paranormal experiences from around the world, Gaurav decided he no longer wanted to be a pilot. He knew his parents, like any other Desi parents, would be disappointed. He knew it would seem like he wasted a lot of their time and a lot of their money. But he also knew he could no longer continue studying what he was. He would never be happy. Ghostbusters aside, life has come full circle. Regardless of what Aaron would do in the situation, Gaurav knew he wanted to dedicate the rest of his life to trying to understand a realm of existence he had somehow tapped into, and become India's first paranormal investigator. To pursue this passion, Gaurav decided he was going to join a paranormal investigation course in the United States at the AMS Metaphysics Institute in Florida, from where he would become a certified paranormal investigator as well as a... Ugh, it's a little stupid. I don't know what to say. Dude, we're ghost hunters. Can we laugh out loud? This is what we need to do. Listen, it's about being able to take a joke, right? Yeah, we are ghost hunters in some respects, but we know that's a funny thing to do. And funnier than that is a UFO field investigator. But it's almost better, when you think about it logically, better than being a ghost hunter, in all honesty. But at least there's some realm of like, what is a more serious occupation to have? UFO field investigator or ghost hunter? I vote ghost hunter. I vote UFO field investigator. Let's see the votes we get. It's now been 2 years since Gaurav dropped out of flying school. By now, it's 2009, and Gaurav has completed a course making him a certified paranormal investigator. After 3 years of staying in the United States, he finally decides to come back to India, to New Delhi, fully aware that he was leaving a country rife with the culture of paranormal sciences and to one without any. Sure, India was home to self-proclaimed godmen, and many of them claimed to be able to speak to the dead and exorcise spirits, but a large part of the country distrusted them. It wasn't a well-respected or sufficiently paying profession to be a godman, the way it was to be a paranormal investigator. After coming to India, Gaurav was shot to stardom. He became a regular on many MTV shows, and if you look at his pictures now and think you've seen him somewhere, MTV is probably it. He even appeared on MTV Girls' Night Out, which was India's first ever paranormal reality show, a show that ended up shutting down after the episode in the abandoned village of Kuldhara, where one of the girls in the show experienced some bizarre occurrences and was found unconscious in an isolated part of the location. In that same episode, Gaurav found a child's handprint on his car window, after which his car burnt to flames inexplicably on camera, forcing the crew out of Kuldhara. At DC Studios, one of the shows we produce is... It's a show where we travel to India's most haunted places to bust the boots once and for all. One of the places we visited was none other than Kuldhara, and suffice to say, we experienced a little something ourselves. It was terrifying. Oh my god, I'm still not over it. It was just a couple of weeks ago. We were in Kuldhara, and we were on this middle of nowhere road, on the side of the road, waiting in our car with our door open. It's pitch dark black. No buildings, no cars, nothing, nobody around us, just us. The driver's side door was open, but the driver wasn't in the car. It does not happen like that. What just happened, Asaria? That door was fully open, okay? And it just closed with so much purpose. It closed like not, wind slide closed, no. It closed like a door is supposed to close. This is why, right there, like so far away. That's really scary. I know you saw it, right? It wasn't like a regular, that's the wind kind of thing. Say something, right? Or am I going crazy? Suffice to say, Gaurav Tiwari and his MTV crew weren't the only ones that have experienced a little something something. And if you want to check out the entire episode, of course, you can check out Bootbusters and all the crazy stuff that we do there in Kuldhara and other places in India. Go do it. By this time, Gaurav had become so well known in the famous media circles of India that he also received 2 roles in movies. One in the movie Tango Charlie with Ajay Devgan and Sanjay Dutt, and the second in the movie *16th December* next to Milind Soman and Gulshan Grover. Then, Gaurav did the unexpected by doing something nobody in India had ever done before. He set up the Paranormal Society of India and took over as its president. Slowly and steadily, the membership of the Paranormal Society grew, and more people, plagued by and interested in paranormal activities from across India, joined the organization. Over time, Gaurav toured almost 6,000 of the world's most haunted locations with some of the world's biggest paranormal investigators and had been on some of the most famous paranormal reality shows of the time abroad. Gaurav became a cast member of the well-known paranormal reality TV show called Haunting Australia. In one of the episodes of the series, Gaurav and his fellow cast members visit a morgue. The plan was for Gaurav to lie down inside one of the storage units in the morgue with nothing but a torch and a thermal imaging camera. Gaurav lies down on the stretcher of the morgue with dead bodies all around him. His crew members push the stretcher inside and leave the morgue for a full 24 hours, leaving Gaurav alone to try and communicate with the spirits that might linger there. At some point during the night, Gaurav begins to hear noises coming from within the room. He hears tapping sounds around him, as if someone was tapping with their fingers on the metal enclosures of the morgue drawers. Gaurav, upon hearing the sounds, asks the spirits questions, asking them to respond or cause movement in the room. But after hours and hours of trying, he gets no concrete evidence. Though disappointed at the lack of evidence, Gaurav didn't give up. He prepares himself to find something in his next location, the infamous old Geelong jail in Victoria, Australia. While only 4 executions ever took place in this jail, there were 500 confirmed deaths within its walls, caused by the inmates killing each other. The prison is also said to be home to the ghost of a violent prisoner named Percy Ramage, who appears in his cell even today to many visitors as a 7-foot-tall shadow. Despite having died in the 19s, people that live around the prison and those who have visited it have seen full-body apparitions, heard footsteps when they were alone in the jail, and felt someone come close to their ear and whisper things to them. To verify these stories, see them for himself, and capture them on camera, Gaurav and his crew go over to the Geelong jail and begin capturing footage from every single angle of every single building in the hopes of gathering proof. The crew makes their way into the jail cells where murders have been reported and where activity is known to be high, such as sounds of people talking that can still be heard. Finally, after hours of gathering footage and evidence, it was time for the crew to review what they had got. As they start looking through the hundreds of photos and videos they've captured, initially, they see nothing. Think, nobody in the first photo, nobody in the second photo, nobody in the third photo, until the team realizes they see something in a picture of the jail corridor. In this photograph of the corridor, lit up with a pinkish red light, is a man in the distance. Now, the crew remembers this corridor, and they remember it being completely empty. The jail was left empty for the crew to come and shoot in. But in the distance, you can see what looks like a black silhouette of a man standing right outside a jail cell. In fact, Aj Tak reporter Shams Tayyar Khan, who met Gaurav shortly after he returned from Australia, said he saw the footage firsthand and claims he's never seen anything like it in his life. I mean, gun to head, that's the shadow of a man, right? Doesn't it look like you didn't even have to point it out to me? Yeah, it looks like a man with a pot belly standing there. But I would wager it's photoshopped or something, because that's freaky. But again, it's with these things where, you see something like a human being, and your brain tricks you, because, there are other parts of this picture that could easily be. That was Aaron in the Geelong jail back in 2007. Now, Aaron, I know you showed reservations towards that footage, but that's not even the only thing they caught that day. They have another footage of a different corridor where it seems like a figure comes right in front of the camera lens with its face really, really close, and then suddenly disappears just like the way this prison guard did. It's terrifying. There is footage from that day, and to me, it's really scary. After Gaurav returned to India from Australia, a number of news channels reached out to him and the newly founded Paranormal Society of India and asked them to accompany the reporters to some of India's most haunted locations. Along with the reporters from the news channel, Gaurav and his team agreed to go over to Kuldhara a second time. Now, if you don't know Kuldhara's story, some 300 years ago, members of the village who identified as Paliwal Brahmins disappeared after putting a curse on it, a curse that said nobody would ever be able to set foot on the village land ever again. Ever since the disappearance, the village was abandoned and today remains completely empty with no human settlement. However, members of nearby villages still hear children playing, women singing, and markets running that once existed 300 years ago. With Gaurav, the team decided to visit the abandoned village and make their way to the village graveyard. It was there on the K2 meter and other audio equipment carried by the group that Gaurav heard a voice Gaurav claimed was of someone telling the crew to leave the village and its villagers alone. The voice terrified an experienced investigator like Gaurav to such a great degree that he instantly ended the shoot and everybody left the location as soon as possible. Incidents of this nature kept happening to Gaurav. He kept exposing himself to an unknown world that many claim is dangerous, and many close to Gaurav still believe that it was this proximity of his to the supernatural that began to take a serious,